Good day. I am Jason, and we are at Role Play Cafe / Jason Flash Football, and I am here with Mr. John Turnbull, the lead. Well, how do we say this? Owner and lead designer for Powder Blue Sports.
Only
And
designer.
lead designer. That's right. You are, and the chief cook and bottle washer, right? Isn't that the? Isn't
Right.
that the
Yep.
old? Yep.
Janitor and yep.
Uh, I have known John a long time. My gosh, I don't know how many years we've been friends. But last year, oh my gosh, I want to say like November, was it November, December in 2024? All of a sudden, you said,
Or
"Hey man, I've got a football game," and I was like, "What?" And I think you showed it to me, and I said, "Oh, okay, I'm digging this." And then you'd sent me a package, which was very nice, of Drive Time Footballs, kind of a demo prototype package, and I was blown away, absolutely blown away. And in how many months? 9 months. You have completed, I think, one of the better basketball games I've ever played, and also currently my favorite game, red ice hockey. So, tell me a little bit about your background. So, when you started, did you play much as a kid? Did you play a lot as an adult? Were you into the tabletop? Tell me a little bit about that, John.
yeah, I remember playing with a good friend that used to live across the street, and I would just spend hours over his house playing the SAI board games,
Yep.
Superstar Baseball,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
and dabbled in some Status Pro, some pay dirt football. Those were the main staples early on, and then
Right.
probably like a lot of people, once you get into adulthood, you kind of take a hiatus
Yeah.
from that. And then I actually got back in it with my ex brother-in-law back in
Okay.
the mid '80s. We used to play a lot of Sherco baseball.
Oh, gotcha.
That was
Okay.
a classic game before they redid I think it went from a base 21 to a base 36.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we used to play hours. I probably spent more time with him than I did with my ex-wife back then, playing playing board games on playing baseball. But
Wow.
yeah, and then the computer age came around,
Yep.
and
Yep.
got into baseball there. I had somebody I was stationed with here in Ohio when I was back here in the '80s.
Yeah.
Uh, Really got me in with Earl Weaver baseball,
Right. Right.
and I played that. I wore several discs out of Earl Weaver. The original version was a lot better. When they came out with their second iteration,
Right.
it wasn't good. But I mean, I created a league of 1,000 players, used
Holy
their career
cow.
stats, and did a
Yeah.
draft league. And I had a book about 3 inches thick of score sheets, and we had
Right.
8 or 10 people in the league. So it was, um, yeah. And then from there, it progressed to uh, computer-wise still to pursue the pennant, which turned into Diamond Mine.
Right,
And
right.
I'm
Which I've
still
chatted
doing
with you
that. Yeah,
about. That'll be
still
my
doing that.
next PC investment, as I do
Yep.
not have that yet, but I will be getting that.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed,
No,
and I
no.
know what you like in a game, so
Yeah. Oh, I'll
that'll
love it. I'll love it.
suit you perfectly. Um, Board game wise, and I've heard this from 99% of the people that COVID got them
Yes.
into it,
Yeah.
and I've always had, baseball's my first sport. It's kind
Okay.
of ironic of all the games I've created, I haven't done a baseball one yet,
Yeah.
but
Right.
we'll,
Right.
we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Yeah.
as you know, uh, it did ended with a long form baseball game.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew that you were working on a baseball game, and that's why I was so shocked when you said, "Hey, I got a football
Yeah.
game," and I'm like,
Well,
"Whoa! I was looking for a baseball game, dude."
I was trying. I was looking for something. Even though it was a long form game, I wanted it to be. To me, anything over an hour
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. It's
I,
tough.
I personally I lose my attention span, and I wanted something a little bit shorter.
Hmm.
Actually, a lot shorter, but then I started thinking, when I get into this baseball game, my mind just automatically flipped over to what can I do that's a quick play.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure if, well, it was just the start of football season because I started the idea probably back in September of last year, and
Okay.
then everything
Okay.
kind of came together. And to be honest, I probably rushed the first release of that one because uh,
Yeah.
there were some mathematical things that I didn't become aware of until after I released it.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And a few errors here and there, but it's amazing how forgiving the community is with what you
Well,
want to do.
yeah.
And
I
as long as
mean,
you're,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
as long as you're transparent and open about what you're doing,
Oh, sure.
to a lot of people, that's
Yeah.
all that
Well,
matters.
and yeah,
So
it's not. More importantly, is that when you discovered it, you wanted to make it right. It's not as if you were saying, well, it's what it is.
yeah,
You didn't do
yeah,
that. Yeah, well, whatever. The cranky old man. Well, tough shit. You didn't do any of that. So, but that brings me to this. So we all do it differently, right? For me, I'm visited by an idea or the muse, and then I want to make sure quickly on paper. I will go to work and I'll jot down my ideas, and then I'll pick up dice and I'll start to make sure that the process can even function the way I'm thinking. Then I go to work on saying, okay, now how do I put the pieces together to make this thing statistically accurate, whatever. But I'm always conscious of whether it's complicated or whether it's going to be the kind of thing I would want to play, whether I want it to be dice or cards. So tell me, did you first go, okay, I want to make a quick play game? You've mentioned that, but did you first say, hey, I want to use a certain amount of dice? I want to use 2d6. I mean, how did you come up? Because for me, one of the things I love is all so self-contained on really a football card. Team A, Team B. You use 2d6, and it's accurate. It's fast. It ebb and flow, and it's accurate. So, I mean, did you first say, "Hey, I want it to all fit on one card"? Did you say you wanted it to be possession? I mean, how did you start the process? Was it what kind of
yeah.
dice to use?
I did want a possession based. In the beginning, I wanted to use as little dice as possible. Now, and once you, it seems like with each game that I made, the number of dice grew,
Yeah,
exponentially as
I'm
far
gonna
as
ask you about that too. I was
yeah,
gonna ask you
but
about that. Yes.
yeah, but yeah, I wanted something with a small footprint because I
Yeah.
know people, including myself, don't have a whole lot of table space to
Yep. Yep.
do. And I wanted something where if you looked at a card for a team, like like here's a basketball one. You
Yeah.
can look at your card and you can automatically tell the character of that team
Yes. Colors.
just by
Colors.
looking at the colors and where they're
Yeah.
located on the card,
Yeah.
and yes, and have everything because all you need is two cards and a piece
So
of
you
paper.
were you were already thinking about the aesthetic before you really went to work on the math? That's amazing.
Yeah, because I knew what I wanted because each one has the initial roll and then it possibly leads to something else.
Gotcha.
That's the natural flow of all three games.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I wanted something that it would be easy on the eyes and people you know knew what it meant. Now, you mentioned something about it being easy. It seems like every single game I make, there's like one little piece of the rules that's a little bit harder to understand than the rest of
Well,
them.
for me now,
Yeah.
you can't
Oh no,
base
no,
that on anybody
it's
but me
different
because
for
I'm
everybody
kind of
else.
dense. So sometimes that's just me.
But I also find that the more you play it, it just
Oh
becomes
yeah, it's
you pick it up and
yeah, yeah.
it's just that initial road bump that you hit when you get to that part of the rules and
Sure, sure. Or well, it's
so,
or it's because it's not. So that's the other thing with all my games. I have a procedure that I try to never change. So when you're playing that game and you have this procedure, then there's that. Oh, there's like penalties in apple hockey. it's like all of a sudden everything comes crashing to a halt as people try to figure out the penalty system in Apple hockey, right? So you're moving, you're moving. Oh, penalty. And then you're like, oh, no, penalty. How do I. So there's the process. The procedure goes from this fluid, normal loop to, oh, now we add a secondary loop. And so games like yours are they're so, I don't say simple, because they're not simple. The game design, what comes out of them is not simple, but the loop is so easy to do. That's part of the joy, is that you get into the whole thing. But then there might be that one thing that's outside that loop that takes a minute for people to go, oh yeah, empty net, how do I do empty net? Or yeah. So I think that's probably why it seems like it's complicated, but it's not. It's just outside the normal loop of play, if that makes sense.
Sometimes I think sometimes, and I don't know if this is a curse or whatnot, but sometimes I think my games are almost too simple.
Yeah, I have nothing. Well, it depends. I don't know what you look. For me, simple is a sign of genius. If you can achieve what you're doing simply and efficiently, that's just a sign of good game design and genius. That's not a handicap, my friend.
I want an end result of I don't want to say accurate, because it seems that's been a big buzzword going around in the boards and the videos and all that stuff. I think having it being representative, and I'm not saying mine's not accurate, but
yeah,
like I said, somebody we all know says if we want accurate, you just go watch a video of the same game that you had.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you want it to be representative in a quick manner, but still have enough meat on the bone to make it feel like you're
mm-hmm.
playing the game, following the flow of the game.
Yep.
And so
yeah, and so here's the thing about solitaire games, in particular replay games. If they're designed to be a solo replay game, or even like yours, which you might not call a replay game, but because of the nature of it, matching up two historical teams that are designed to be accurate, even if the accuracy is just in the potency of the offense versus the ineptitude of the defense, whatever, the very nature of replay solitaire is simple, because there is no strategic variable that I'm stopping and going, okay, what am I going to do here on fourth down? Right. There's no strategic variable. So it's just by its nature, they are dice rolling systems. So when I hear people complain, I don't want to feel like I'm just rolling dice. Well, I got news for you. That's what you are doing, whether you're playing Appa, or you're playing John's game, or you're playing my game. What you don't want to feel like is it's unnecessary to roll the dice, right? That there's no gamble risk reward mechanic. So when I look at that and I go, oh man, I can see New England scores on a 6. They have sandwiched between the 6 and the 8 an interception. You're like, oh dude, this is going to be cool to see. Will New England have one of those games where they score 28 points throwing touchdown passes? Yeah. Or will they hit that interception 5 times, And so the joy comes out of seeing how those numbers over the course of a season are going to give us that competition. And so I talk about this all the time. I could care less about your stats, and I mean collecting stats. I'm not real interested in recording statistics. I want to see competition, and I want to see I want to know that it's Joe Theismann, and I want to know that it's Dan Marino, and I kind of want to make sure, well, at least I want to see at least those two guys somewhat represented, but I want that competition. So when I'm rolling the dice, it's to enjoy the competition between these two entities that I don't have any impact on, which is part of what I love about your games, because you remove me from the equation, and the dice, you don't ask me to make 46 dice rolls to complete the game. So I'm not just rolling dice, right? There's this ebb and flow. And see, these are the things that I think really made your game tight, attractive, simple, and fun. And these are things that maybe were an accident. It doesn't make any difference. Congratulations, you did it. But then you took it to the next level with basketball. And I want to ask you first, though, before we move on. So what's also amazing about you that other people don't know is you are like a master with Excel spreadsheets. So you have got these formulas. It's amazing. You can take all these formulas and have Excel help you with, in a way, breaking down the statistical data into the probabilities that are going to become the curve the dice curve on your cards. And that, to me, is mind-blowing. I have to do everything, literally, I do everything with a pencil and a calculator. I don't use it, and I do it all myself. I'll get the stats, and I'll have to reverse engineer. If I'm not certain how many cards I'm going to need, I'll have to reverse engineer to get a deck of cards. But I've seen your spreadsheets, and I've seen what you do, and it's unbelievable. And it's like, so how did you, because you almost have to reverse extrapolate the data that you're taking, the real life data, and you have to know what you're going to do with that to, in a way, reverse extrapolate it to a 2D6 system for football or 3D6 for basketball and hockey. How did that come about?
Oh, to me, I got to know what I got to know what I'm looking for at the end result.
Okay.
Let's just take hockey for example. You've got regular goals, you got power play goals, shorthanded goals, and empty net goals. Those are your four major types. So then I got to go into what the stats give me. So I'm kind of hand strung by, the stats that I can actually be accessible to, and then figure out each, it's this total goals. Okay, out of those total goals, how many of this team were shorthanded? What was the percentage of that? How many were empty net? The percentage of that?
Right.
How many power play opportunities were there?
Right.
Total during the season, divided by the number of games, divided by the number of segments, and out of those power plays, how many have power play goals scored, and what percentage of that?
Yep.
And then you take, and so then you come up with, and you just subtract each of those from the total goals. So then you're left with, when you score a generic goal on your first roll,
right?
That's not the entire number of goals scored during the season. That's just the number of goals that was left over once you take away the empty net, once you take away the power play, once you take away the shorthanded goals.
Right.
So that percentage is figured out for each team, and then you compare that to the league average. And you have to adjust that because when you play everybody else, if it's higher, then you make a number inflated, so that when you play teams with lower qualities, it brings it back down to what the league is. But But bringing it back around, you have to know what you want in the end before you start your spreadsheet and before you start getting your formulas, your formulas built and so on. So
you knew that you were going to have to use 3x6 for basketball and hockey?
I started 2D6, and when I went to basketball,
there were not enough variables.
No, there wasn't enough granularity with the 2D6 for that. So then I says, okay, I won't ever go 46, but 3D was, a 3 and an 18 is only 0.5% on each side. So you can easily fit everything that you need 2 percentage wise into a 3D6.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Now that's not to say 2D6 isn't accurate, because for the football, because I got to fill in, everything's within 1 to 1.5% of what the actual.
Well, and I'll say it again, I talk about this all the time. Football is an inaccurate sport in and of itself, number one. Mm-hmm. That you can't trust any of the statistics you ever see in football because it's based on 22 guys on a football field. Yeah. So that's a big part. 3, you get 16 sample size. Dude, they do that in baseball in half a month. They play 16 games. You know what I mean? Yeah. Baseball, you're going to get 160 samples. Yeah. So you really know how well these guys pitch and how well these guys are batting. In football, it's like, wait a minute, give them another 4 games and a team might go on a run and end up throwing 16 more touchdowns and end up in a Super Bowl, right? Given 4 more games, right?
Or just within a game, a lot of times, a team will have 60, 70 plays in a game.
Yep.
But it's 3 to 5 plays that will define whether or not you win or lose.
Yeah, yeah.
Those critical situations.
Bobby Bowden had a brilliant coaching book that I read, back in the 90s. And he's talked about that exact thing. What's the difference between college and pro football? There are 5 plays that determine a pro football game. There can be 12 to 15 that determine the outcome of a college game, which is why college can get out of hand so quick, because they're going to get 10 chances to run, for a 70-yard run or throw, because the discrepancy in talent is so different. that I might get 10 broken plays, which all lead to scores. I've got 70 points before you know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
Pro football, those margins of error either way are so tiny. But so 2 to 12 in football makes complete sense. Would you, though, now after basketball and hockey, would you have gone back and done football with 3-6?
No, because there was only 4 or 5 different outcomes you could have.
Correct.
on football.
Yeah,
So
technically you're going to have a score or a turnover. You really have 2, a score or a turnover.
Yeah.
And the turnover is going to be a
yeah.
punt, a fumble, or an interception, turnover on downs.
Yeah. So it's either actually a score or no score.
That's
or
it.
Turnover.
That's exactly
So,
right.
it doesn't make sense.
So you just don't need a big window. You just don't need a big window.
Right.
Yeah. You could create as big a window as you want. You could use a D100 and make it as granular as you want, which many games do. They use 5 D20s, or they'll use stuff like that.
The baseball game that I have in mothballs is actually on a 0 to 1,000.
Holy cow! Well, you can't do that on a table. Well, you can actually.
Well,
you could roll 3d10s.
3d10. But the thing about it is, in a baseball game, you've got so many different possibilities, so many different positions the ball could be hit to.
Oh yeah.
So that lends itself to that.
We haven't discussed baseball as a sport, but to me, baseball's the only true. It's the most pure sport. It's not necessarily my favorite sport, but I've romanticized baseball a little bit, maybe. Although I'm not a diehard baseball fan, I did not grow up playing baseball. I wasn't watching baseball, but as I aged, I hit my 30s, and when I started really analyzing football, as I was making flash football, I started breaking down the sport of football as a game designer, and then I started looking at baseball, and I went, holy cow, there is a purity to baseball because mathematically. For instance, and it's also there's only a handful of sports in the world where everybody's guaranteed their turn, right? If I have to play second base, I get to swing the bat. You can't take that away from me, right? Well, you can, but not only one time. You can only sit me down once. You can't put me back out there and make me keep playing second base and not let me bat, right? So there's this certain kind of mathematical beauty to baseball. And then we do know there are only so many outcomes, right? It's a ground ball, to 3 over to, 2, right? It's that 3, what is it, 6-3-2 double play. So we know that kind of math, but, there are only so many outcomes no matter what. That's why tracking a baseball, so if you get a baseball box score and you track baseball, you can literally walk through that baseball box score and get 100% a replay of the game just through your statistical box score, which is, you can't do that in football. I mean, football you can do a play-by-play, ran for, but you don't know much from that. Did they run this thing off tackle? Was the middle linebacker involved here? Right now, that's getting better with data chip analysis. They're putting chips in all the suits and things, right? So what's fascinating about that is, as I've said with another, I said the other day with, oh my gosh, Brian, so baseball, you have a plethora of good statistical data to build games. It's a matter of how do you want your engine to work. I really don't see baseball as being a statistical problem to solve. It is how do you want people to play your game? How do you want them to experience your game? And how accurate do you want your game to be? And so, 0 to 1,000 points would create great detail. It would create more accuracy, right? So, if you make a baseball, you say I'm getting there real quick. I'm just going to cut right to the. If you make a baseball, what will you be looking more toward a fast play? Will you be looking more to granular pitch by pitch, batter pitcher?
It'll be a quick play.
Okay.
And it may actually borderline on an ultra quick play.
Oh, fascinating.
And it's going to be the ideas I've got going in my coconut is ones that are unlike any other game that I've played before.
Okay.
So,
wow.
It's I don't want to.
Oh no! I don't want you to go into details. So this begs the next question then. Do you prefer quick play or fast play? I won't say do you prefer games that are you're able to finish in 15 minutes? Is that kind of your preference?
Yeah, I like both.
Yeah.
But just because there's so much else going on
Hmm.
in my life that it lends itself to quick play. But
Right.
I'm at, I've for the last month, and this is sad to say, at
Uh-huh.
least just recently,
Yeah.
the only time I've had to play is at the conventions.
Right.
But
Right.
I'll play. Well, I'm using Excel Helper to do I got I don't know if you followed her, because you're not on Facebook. I got a Can-Am Cup with the
Okay.
24-25 season where I took all seven Canadian teams
Oh, right.
and matched them up with seven American teams that had similar, SRS numbers,
Right.
goal
Right.
for against, even, I try to evenly match seven different teams,
Yeah.
and they go one game each in a 7-game series.
Ooh.
Think of it as a Ryder Cup for hockey.
Right. Gotcha. Right.
Yeah. Oh, I finished 3 games so far, and the U.S. is up 2-1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the
So,
U.S.
but
is going to win. I mean, come on. I mean, it's Canada.
that uh, actually, I don't think I'd have to look to see. I don't think the Avalanche is in that series.
Oh,
They
that's a
weren't
shot
matched.
at me. Oh, thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
But getting back to what was the point? Oh yeah, playing.
Hmm.
I've been. And it's a good problem to have.
Sure.
Thank you. I've been flipping so many flipping orders that I
Sure.
haven't had
Yeah.
a chance to play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I love to play. I mean, I'm first and foremost. I said it before. I'm first passionate about gaming. I grew up. My first experiences as a kid with my oldest brother, him teaching me how to play bowl bound. I was probably 8 years old and showing me the dice and saying, "Hey, here's the probabilities," and to teach me because I was just 8. He said, "Jason, you want 33s, 34s, and 35s," and he said, "Just look on the chart and see which plays give you the best results there." So that's how I learned my first game. And I remember thinking as a kid, okay, cool. And then you start working stuff out, right? And then, so I've just been a gamer my whole life, and I've been an athlete and a football gamer. I mean, a sports tabletop gamer, and also replay. Role playing. I grew up running D&D for my buddies when I was 10. I was teaching them how to play D&D, and we were playing D&D, and so I just grew up a gamer. That I did the same thing. I think all of us kind of went through this. You get too old you don't have the time or you don't have the friends, so you move from tabletop to PCs to kill that time, to get that itch. And I never thought I would ever in a million years go back to tabletop when I was in my 20s, early 20s, because we had these PC games, and it's like, why would they even keep making these things? Nobody can possibly be buying Status Pro now. Avalon Hill had gone bankrupt, and I remember thinking, yeah, of course they did, because no one's ever going to go back to playing tabletop stuff by themselves. And then I hit 96. And I was 26, and I was fed up. They were transitioning to Windows, and I couldn't get any of my games to work on Windows, and I couldn't keep up with the technology. It was too expensive, so I got mad, and I said I gotta fill the niche. So I invented Flash Football for me, literally, because I needed to play, and I needed to play alone. So that became and then that slowly got me back into the gaming. But then for a long window, I was out of all tabletop gaming again until I discovered John M. Stater's football game in 2017, which brought me back to all of this. And more importantly, got me back into game design after Gary Brown. So what inspired you, though, to start creating games? Because that's the thing that kind of... I knew you were working on a baseball game, but all of a sudden, you were poof, here it was. And it's like, what outside of COVID, what really made you say, I want to actually create games for people?
And this is going to be, and I've heard this, and it's true. You're going to make a game that you're going to want to play yourself.
Yep.
Even if nobody else
That's
ever
it.
played the game, that's something that you would want to use for your own purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I can guarantee there's one human being on the planet that's going to play my games, and that's me. That's all I can guarantee. I can't guarantee anyone else will, right?
and the 3 I got, where you can actually do 2-player.
Yeah.
Because even if it's just your team rolling the
Oh,
dice
sure.
to see what happens. I've had several
Mm-hmm.
people, they play with their kids. It's simple enough
Oh,
to
yeah.
play with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
They play with their spouse with it, and then I got
People
one guy.
people love to roll dice, John, and if I can roll my dice, hey, come on, give me that 7, and your kids going, roll that defense die, Dad, because I got an interception on 7. That's the fun, right? That's the fun.
I didn't plan it this way, but when I make the formulas on the spreadsheets, I'll fill when I have to figure out a certain percentage, to put in like for regular goals.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a wide range, but
Yeah.
what I'll do is instead of there's a lot of well, I'll say a lot. There's some annual entry that's needed.
Yeah.
I'll fill everything in, and then it's easier for me to subtract knowing what I need because I have a column with the difference, so
Right.
I know what column I need to subtract from to
Right.
get
To balance
the
it out,
total
to keep it
to
right.
balance it out, and then
Mm-hmm.
then I use the conditional formatting to say, okay, now you're within range because it pops up a certain color.
Yeah. So
But I
you're doing
noticed,
double entry bookkeeping, John. Sounds like.
oh, I hated accounting in college too.
Exactly.
Oh, I
But that's
hated
kind
it
of what
with
you have to
passion. Believe
do,
it or
right?
not.
You have to balance
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
ledgers. Yeah.
yeah. But what I'm getting at here is I noticed on the hockey game that, and this isn't true for every single season, every single team,
Right.
but I found a commonality that if you roll an 8 right on top of that XG, it's an automatic goal.
Oh.
If you roll that 8, if you go back and look through some of your cards, you'll find that almost all the 8s are. But I didn't plan it that way, but that's the way
Yeah.
the subtraction by
Sure.
elimination left that as almost a standard
Right.
for at least a
Right, and
minimum
that
for
would
the
that probably explains why there's certain numbers in Stratomatic that are always a certain thing, and that's why in APA number 66 is a certain thing, right? Because I'm sure there was this mathematical pattern, and that's why
yeah.
those numbers and those cards become kind of well known, right? Because they tend to be the only space you can fit that result. Like Stratomatic's football, what is it? Number 5 is always a fumble result, always.
Yeah.
However, it's a split result. The ball is maybe fumbled, right? But it's always 5. I think 5 is on every card, and every football player, unless they didn't fumble at all, I think has a fumble chance on 5, right? Right.
Now, I started with the basketball game and carried it over to hockey as far as the individual players
Right.
because I've found that people almost gravitate more toward wanting to follow their favorite player in
Mm-hmm.
a certain season. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I can do the Patriots for
Mm-hmm.
the 2000s, but
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
you really know if Brady threw this pass or if
Mm-hmm.
Moss catched a pass
Yeah.
or whatnot. So when we were chatting before the recording started, that I'm toying around with putting player finders in
Football.
football.
Yeah.
Now, when I first started it, Family Football and Fast Drive both have
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
but at the time I didn't want to duplicate effort. But the now that I've got the other games under my belt
Mm-hmm.
and seeing
How
the
you can do it.
relation
How you can do it.
of both, it's to me it's like, why am I making people go to a different game? Not that they're bad, they're great. Both of them are great games. I
Yeah,
love Fast
right.
Drive football.
Well, yeah, if you can fit them on the card. I mean, my gosh, when I saw your hockey cards, I said, gosh, you could do this with football. But I didn't want to say, I wasn't going to say anything. Hey, dude, you could do this with football. Because I don't want to be the guy that's telling you, please do this.
No. But I'm seeing the value added of putting the player finders on there,
It's
even
huge.
though
It's huge.
if you for people that order printed sets,
Yeah.
if they want that, yes, it's
Yeah.
going to cost more because this place is more paper.
Yeah.
And
But your
if-
prices, by comparison to an APOS season's $140
yeah, yeah,
for
But
one season, right? So
yeah. So that's something I'm toying around with.
Right.
With
yeah, see, and again, the great thing about these conversations with my peers is we can talk about the development because I'm also a developer and a designer, but also I'm a diehard player and I love the hobby. So when we say, listen, drive time football, well, maybe it's too simple. Well, the irony is it's not too simple. It's efficient. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It creates that drama that we want. And you say, well, what can I do to make it more complicated? Nothing. You don't need to. But you know what you could do is you add that player finder, which now completes that moment. And I wouldn't have said this. I literally would not have said this because you saw me what I did with family football. When I first showed people family football, I immediately made little cards that had all the players on it. So I knew who was running the ball, who was catching the ball. The one thing I don't like about ultra quick games is there's no details at all. And I roll the dice. Oh, great, the Raiders won 24-28, but I don't know who scored. I don't even remember who played for the Raiders in 1981 at running back. Was that Kenny King or was that, And so I want to be able to look at those cards like I do in hockey and go, oh, yeah, there's Gretzky. And I can see the other two wingers and go, oh, yeah, I can see these guys tearing it up here in the third period, right? You're reminded of, oh, my God, right, LaDainian Tomlinson was playing for this Chargers team. Oh, damn. So.
The thing is, there's some people that don't need that.
Oh, no.
And you don't,
God, no.
And you don't have to. And I intentionally... I don't want to say intentionally because that gives myself too much credit. But my games are such that they're simple enough.
You don't need it.
Bare bones enough that it gives you what you need.
Yep.
Has enough meat on the bone, and it's there for people to add on to how they want to.
Which is what I did. And a matter of fact, I'm about to do. I guess I might as well explain it here. I might not explain it. I might as well share it here. I'm about to make detail charts for your drive time football that I'm going to be using, right? So, but that's just going to be to represent kickoffs and things like that. So I'm gonna be able to sit down with your simple little game, but have information that informs my narrative because I love to think, okay, where did they return the kickoff to? Oh, to the 26. All right, here we go, Chicago. We're driving the ball, baby. I'm going to roll those dice, and I'm going to know that okay, it's a punt. If the punt goes here, so I'm working on just a way to know where the ball's positioned. Not for you, for me. But you don't have to do any of that. And
no,
I would not have thought that, even about drive time football. But then when you put out your basketball game with the scorers on it, it was like, oh my God, this just having those scorers that were getting the scores per segment, it was like, oh my God, this just adds so much flavor to Michael Jordan dominating a game. It was important. Yeah. It's important.
I mean, I would, as far as the add-ons, there's stuff that I think about. If somebody else made the game, and I wanted to add on to it, how would I do it? Now, that opens a Pandora's boxes because
it's dangerous.
I'm not going to make it a new mandatory rule.
Yes,
there's a fine line that I have to have between
that's me. Yeah,
is he changing the rules or is he just that? And I'll give you an example. None of this is on paper yet, but you could dude throws a touchdown pass.
Right.
I could go in and go, what are the average? You can make a bell curve for the number of yards a touchdown pass is.
Yep.
Put that on a 3D6.
That's roll, exactly right.
And actually roll for your I hit a 6. Okay, this is a 48-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And do the same thing for runs.
Yep.
And kickoff returns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's matter of fact, like I said, the little. I'm going to make a chart because I just asked you to make 2006 and 2010 for me. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I purchased those, by the way, folks. So I didn't just put John to work. I bought those. But the point of that is I want to see the Chicago Bears. I want to play the Chicago Bears in 2006 mostly. And so I'm going to want to know what Devin Hester's doing. Even if he ain't taking it back to the house, I want to see Devin Hester's.
You remember his name. You couldn't remember it the other day.
Right, the kick return, right. And so I want to be able to, I just want to be able to roll dice on a simple chart and say, oh, Devin Hester had a 42-yard return here on this punt or whatever. I only want it to see these, LaDainian Tomlinson scores, for instance. Well, how far was this out? So it won't. I wouldn't make it mandatory if it was my game, for instance, because I think games need to be what they are. But you can add these things, right? Not you personally, but somebody else can create and add these things. But my point is, as simple as your games doesn't change. We're just getting more information. Your actually rules are fine. The outcome is perfect. I just want more data for my commentary. When I sit here to share this with the world, I love to give commentary. Well, sometimes I'm like, I kind of wish I knew how long that punt was, just cause. you know, even though it doesn't matter, it's just a punt. But I can flavor my commentary with details, right?
Right, and you can take each player from, you can do all the touchdown runs for a team.
Yep.
But for some reason, Jalen Hurts pops into my head.
Yeah.
If you took all of his touchdown runs,
they're 1 yard. They're all 1 yard.
So,
but I love that. And here's the funny thing. The sad thing is, or the great thing about our world now is we do have so much data. Pro Football Reference actually tells you who they scored on and how far they scored out. You could actually make a database that says, we scored a rushing touchdown, and you would roll the chart and it'd say, yeah, Hurts got a 1 yard run against the Chiefs. Well, that's because in real life he got 4 1 yard runs against the Chiefs. You know what I mean? So you could get that intricate with your replay data, right? But even if you just have percentages, Jalen Hurts scored 32% of the rushing touchdowns for the Eagles, right? You would just have an average yardage for that. Well, it's from 2 yards out because he didn't score them from 60 and 80 and 70. Not a lot anyway, right? So, but that's the part that makes it so good. We're able to play a game in 15 minutes. Get the drama, the ebb and the flow, the defensive highlights, the scoring highlights, but also you could extrapolate a little bit of details, right?
Yeah. It's like the game you had the other day with somebody threw 4 or 5 interceptions.
Yeah, Danny White, the Cleveland Browns picked, and here's the sad part: Dallas still won. And here's what's funny: how did Dallas win? They scooped and scored. They scooped up a fumble and returned it for a touchdown, and they won the game 10-6. Danny White throws 5 picks. Dallas wins on a defensive score. It was so. And this is why we play, because it's like, you know what? I don't want it to always be, oh yeah, Dallas is going to win this 28-14. We know. We can just look at the data. And like an ultra quick game. Yeah. So if I play an ultra quick game, I can literally look at their averages and say, okay, we're going to modify these averages by roughly we're going to deviate from the norm by 3.6 points either way on both sides, and you can pretty much guess it's going to be 31 to And so you're like, really, what I'm doing? I am just roll. It is just a dice. It feels like it's just a dice experiment, although you're tracking teams through the course of a season, which gives it some narrative. But that's the whole thing. I played this game the other day, and I'm like, you can't. It could happen. It may have happened, but what's important is it did happen. That's the joy of playing, that it can happen. But then ironic that Dallas found a way to win on a defensive score, which blew my mind. Because if you would have said to me, who's going to win this game in 1982, Dallas or the Browns, I said, Dallas is going to win it. Yeah.
You talk about the stuff that's on the cards.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I've brought it up to other people before. And this is my only deep thought of the day here. If that season, when you make a season, it doesn't matter what team, whether it's a season, one team or a combination of teams for a season, all that is a representation of one set of dice rolls.
That's it. For
that team.
That is 100%.
And there's no way you can match that. Mm-mm. There's no way you can.
Nope.
And when I did my, I think it was football, when I did, because when I finish a database, I will take a chunk of the schedule and I'll play the actual games on the schedule and see, the dial in the points. And I don't do it per team. I just do it for the entire league.
Sure.
But I did make a matrix of, okay, how many 2 rolls did I have? 3 rolls, 4 rolls, 5 rolls.
Okay.
And there was a couple times where, the bell curve matched.
Yeah.
But results didn't.
Interesting.
So it's just a matter of
Well, that's dice. Again, the minute we start gambling, and that's what we're doing. When we drop dice, we are gambling, right? And if you don't think so, then just play craps until your luck changes, and you're going to find out that I don't care if 7 pays you. you're going to not roll a 7, and you're going to eventually roll an 11 or right,
Yeah.
and it's going to happen. And it might happen your first roll. It might happen after you've acquired $200 and your friend's money, and then you crap out, right? So this is the great thing about dice, is they make it fun. They make it worth doing, right? But you expect in a window. When I look, for instance, I got, you sent me my the PDFs, or actually you put up the PDFs for everybody, and I grabbed my 2006, 2010, and I immediately looked, and I saw the Colts of 2006. I went, oh my God, they got this huge swath of reds on. I said, oh my God, Peyton Manning was such a stud, So I see that Colts thing, and I'm like, it's gonna be crazy. Who's gonna beat these guys? Well, I'm gonna play because I can't wait to see how they lose a game, right? And if they don't, that's fine too, right? But you see that and you're saying, how are these guys going to lose? Oh yeah, right. I'm not just playing to see if the Colts go 14-2 or whatever they were, 13-3.
Yeah.
I'm playing to see who can beat this odds, because those are odds,
Yeah.
And when Peyton Manning, when a real athlete walks out onto the field and gets under center, right, and he happens to be a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime, and he's currently 8-0, and he's thrown 25 touchdowns and 2 picks. Everybody in the planet watching that Sunday night game goes, who's going to stop this kid? Who's going to beat this kid? Sure enough, he'll throw a pick, or he'll get sacked, or he'll fumble the ball away, or, and you can't help but watch, because you're watching something special, but at the same time, you're kind of rooting that the kid's brought back down to planet Earth.
Yeah. I mean, we had Peyton's number except for when he was with the Broncos.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Patriots, the Broncos have always had their number.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I was in Iraq for 2015 and 16.
Yeah.
As a contractor over there. And when I went back, I came back on leave in January. It was our wedding anniversary. We went down to the Florida Keys for a little bit, came back. But when I was flying back to Iraq, I had a long layover in Dubai.
Okay.
It was right during the AFC Championship game for the Broncos hosting the Patriots.
Yeah.
I was in in Dubai, and I was in this restaurant. It was like an Irish pub type of thing.
Yeah.
And the only way I could watch the game is my wife had, I was on a video call with her, and she had it on a little stand facing the TV set because I couldn't stream the game. And I watched the entire. Granted, the Patriots lost, but I watched it.
Yeah.
I was able to watch that game.
Oh my gosh.
Through the video call.
Yeah.
So
yes, and somehow you're right. Shanahan happened to have both the Broncos, but Shanahan in particular seemed to have just the right something to beat the Patriots. 2015, that defense was just so good. But yeah, I mean, this is why we play sport, right? Because it is sport. It's sporting, right? You never know what you're going to get. And of course, that's why people gamble on it, because it's not enough, right? They need more of a high. So it's like, hey, watching the game ain't enough. I've got to put money on it, so I'm really invested in it. And that's to each his own. To each his own. I'm not a gambler that way. Money comes. It's too difficult to make money to be giving it away to gamblers. Right?
People use, like, for example, for Diamond Mind. Mm-hmm. I think they still do put out a projection disc, but people would be using that playing, because they could play a whole season on Diamond Mind, or let the computer play it in 4 or 5 minutes, depending on how fast your processor is.
Right.
But people use those stats and place bets for season results based on what a computer game would spit out.
Oh, I believe it. It's no different than asking a handicapper to give you the odds, right? You're using, instead of asking a handicapper who's got a hidden formula to their handicapping, you've got a computer that, to you might believe it might be so trustworthy to you that it's better than a handicapper, right? Paying for a handicapper. I used to always see those magazines because I was a big Street and Smiths, Avalon. I used to buy all the football mags. I'd go out, pick up all 4 postseason football mags at the time, Street and Smiths and Athlon, and what was the other one? Football Digest. There was one other one. I always got those end of year. Plus, I'd buy their draft guide. So I'd always spend a ton of money in these magazines. they all had handicapper advertisings in it. It's like, dude, what these guys? Oh, I'm on 99.2% accurate on my underdog. Whatever it is, these ads, these commercials. I'm like, dude, who gives these people their money, man? I mean,
my lock of the year.
Yeah,
this week only.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 free locks if you call in today and put $200 deposit. I'll give you 3 free locks guaranteed. And you're like, this is gambling, dude. What are you doing? It's not nothing's guaranteed, right? So it's
but nothing is compared to nothing. Nothing is that you still get that adrenaline rush rolling the dice.
Oh no!
Like if you do my like when I roll my basketball game, if it's a close game and I'm at the very last segment. Yeah. And I know a team needs X number of points. I'll roll the arc paint free throw separately.
Yeah.
That way, I'll reference the category and I say, okay, they need a 7 or higher.
Yeah.
Is a tie or a win, and then you roll the dice for the results.
Right. And what that equates to, and I'm thinking narratively, what would that equate to? That equates to you in your head narrating that Jordan's holding the ball for the last shot. He's working it around the court, trying to get the last shot, and now let's take it, And that's the thrill, right? Is Allen Iverson holding the ball for the last shot, or the foul, the and one, right? Where you get the cheap foul and you're at the free throw line for the last shot, right? Or the last segment shot, whatever. And that's what I love about the hockey game. They're 5-minute segments of time, and you think that it abstracts so much time, but it doesn't. I mean, if you imagine what must be happening in that 5 minutes, it doesn't abstract it as much as you might think it would do. It just doesn't do it. Not for me. I mean, I can imagine what that 5 minutes of hell looks like in hockey. Yeah, these guys are, a hockey possession is 10 seconds on average. So they're poke checking it away. They're chasing the puck. They're hitting the boards. They're trying to work out they're trying to open up the ice. It's like I can see all of this, and I drop the dice. Yeah. That's just the highlight,
Yeah, I've got guys adding on penalties.
Yeah.
During power plays, they'll roll to see who got the penalties and for how long.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I mean, if you made your teams, you could literally in hockey, because you have all the data if you wanted to. Now, again, it's not what your game's about, but you could have the top half of the page be the game, and the bottom half being your scorers, your assisters, your penalty takers. You could literally have the bottom half of the page be the percentages of people who are involved, right? If you wanted to spend the rest of your life doing this.
Well, I will leak this. My goal is to make team full-page cards for baseball.
There you go. Oh,
even though it's going to be ultra quick play, it's going to be a finder. I plan on making it a finder's heaven.
Oh, I love it and I'll be honest, because part of what I love about sports is the players. The players matter to me because that's what's telling me the drama, the narrative. Who's pitching? And that was a dinger to the left fielder, and he's chasing it back to the wall. I love to imagine who that is, right?
I mean, there'd be more than the share of finders, and actually there'll probably be a few more extra charts in there too, because I want to be able to roll for, without getting too much of it, I want to be able to calculate how many hits a team had in a game.
There you go.
And then because that way you've got the pitcher's possibility of throwing a no-hitter.
There you go. Yeah, it'd be nice to know you've thrown a no. Exactly, yeah. Now that brings me back to a question here. We've ended up talking less question. We don't need to question because we're talking about this as we. I don't need to question you. I know you and but that comes back around to. I forgot my question now. See, a couple of gray-haired guys talking. I forgot my question. Dang. Shoot! Darn it! I forgot my question.
It'll come back.
Oh well.
We're talking about players. We're talking about finders. We're talking about no hitters.
Yeah. So, shoot! What was it? I was going to ask. Dang it! I forgot. Oh, how important is it to you that any charts that you might add to the baseball game that they're universal, or are they going to be per team? Would they be universal charts, or would they be sculpted to each team? If that's not giving away secrets, right?
No. The flat out this is something I haven't 100% thought through, but there's nothing wrong with thinking out loud now. But
no.
the finders themselves, who got the hits, who got the home runs,
Mm-hmm.
how many strikeouts did a pitcher get in a segment or a game.
Wow.
That stuff is pretty easy.
Yeah, and that can be, and
Um,
that can literally be direct data to that team because you'll have the percentages. You'll have all that data.
right, right. Oh yeah. I mean, baseball is a sport where there's
Yep, you got it all. Got it all.
as opposed to I used to be a big bowler,
Yeah.
and I'm sadly disappointed in the lack of historical bowling statistics that are out there.
Yeah, yeah. You know who bowled, and you know what they bowled, but you don't, and you know where they bowled, what the date
Well,
was. But that's
right.
about
No,
it.
well, it's all you got are, I mean, scores. To me,
Yeah,
I want, how many 9 counts did they leave? How many 8
yeah,
counts did they leave?
yeah,
What was their average on today? You've got,
yeah.
a dozen different patterns.
Oh yeah,
What were their scores on each pattern?
yeah,
But that's something. I mean, there
yeah.
is there is there is a website that has that, but it's only been in existence for a couple of years.
Right.
Try to go back to the 50s and the 60s to
Forget it. No, man. You got a name and you have an average.
yeah, and they have and with that, as long as you have an average, you can do it. But,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
That would be
but
something. Have you thought about doing a bowling game using your? And I call it the PBS system because you do. They all share a commonality in how you go about the way your games function. Have you thought about something like a bowling game? Because
well,
that would be sweet.
I'd love to do it, except like I said, it all
Data.
comes down to the stats that you got.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my system could even work for golf. I think I'm going to mention that to you before.
Yes, you
You roll
did.
the
Yeah.
offensive dice to see what the golfer did, or the defense dice to see what the course allowed,
Right. Yes.
particular hole or a course
Yeah.
or
As
whatnot.
long as you've got the data and you've got a
Yeah.
bell curve, you've got a bell curve that encapsulates what can be. I mean, like bowling, for instance. If you knew how they handled odd patterns or how they handled one roll strikes, you could have categories, right? So they roll, they happen to get a pattern, like, oh, now I got to go over to this special pattern roll and roll that pattern, right? To get the spare,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But
Um,
again, you just don't have enough data for the history of bowlers, unfortunately.
yeah.
Right.
But some of the getting back to the baseball, some of the stuff will be. Listen, it's yeah. When I talk about the number of hits if a pitcher allows, that would have to be based on their. It would have to be based on their actual stats.
Well, sure, but you do that. You do that in hockey with shots on goal and with
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you kind of have an average up there at the top for simple shots on goal. Yeah. So you
yeah.
could
That's
certainly have
I'm not
something
gonna
like
have
that
to.
for hits allowed, or not hits. Well, yeah, I guess you could have hit for hits or
Well, I have to kind of almost tie it to the number of runs allowed too,
correct.
because they kind
Right.
of go and
Yeah.
almost a parallel of each
Right.
other.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Each
I
other
would think
back
you would have that
off.
exact parallel. You can literally take the guy had gave up 2,000 hits and he gave up 200 runs, so he gave up an average of whatever 0.2 hits per run,
Right.
right?
And then instead of you could have that historical average, but instead for the individual players you can kind of have modifiers
Yeah, yeah.
or um,
Or even defensive modifiers. You have because you have at least team data that would probably be simpler to correlate to a small reference chart, right?
yeah,
As opposed to, if you've got 25, you've got how many position players that get into a game, or that starts to get very granular. But if you had just your defensive data against or offensive data for, right? I don't know though. And then again, you got the joy of grand slams. If you wanted to try to capture that, which I was telling my wife,
that would be,
uh,
you wouldn't have to roll for a grand slam,
yeah,
but if you rolled like a home run finder,
yeah,
and then if you rolled an RBI finder
yeah,
of sorts, and that
right.
could kind of
Create one. Could kind of create a sense
it'll
of
create a grand slam without
right,
necessarily having
right,
something saying grand slam
right, yeah, right. And
yeah,
again,
yeah,
part of the reason I like abstract games, all the games I make are abstracted to hell. I mean, I'm just an abstract guy because details they limit my imagination. And if it's abstract, I'm free to think. If it just says hit, I'm free to dream up what that hit looked like from Babe Ruth, right? If I know it's a hit to left field, oh, that does a little work for me. Oh, I know Babe Ruth hit it to left field and hit the wall, and the guy's chasing, whoever's out there is chasing it around, or something, right? But I like abstract because I'm free to imagine what's happening. The more detailed we get, the less I'm able to imagine it, but the more accurate it becomes. So LaDainian Tomlinson had 12 rushing touchdowns, and he averaged, whatever number of yardage per carry or whatever, and you roll that chart, you were going to get a little more accurate example that Tomlinson had a 14-yard run for a touchdown. That seems more authentic, but then it might not be what I'm imagining, right? However, ironically, the minute you tell me he had a 14-yard run, I'm imagining what LaDainian Tomlinson did to get that 14 yards into the end zone. Right? Tom Brady throws an 18-yard pass to the corner of the end zone. I'm already imagining, this was a beautiful fade route to Gronk, that monster out there in the corner, right? To Gronk, it's like, who the hell could cover this guy, right? He was a 6'7" beast, with great hands.
I think Gronk would rather catch a 3-yard pass and just bulldoze over everybody into the end zone. Correct,
right. So it's it's like the fumble, the Dallas Cowboy fumble the other day. Well, I just had written down the key guys for Dallas, the key defensive linemen, just to give me a prompt when something like that happens. Well, who get the sack? Oh, that must be Randy White. Who made the big tackle for loss? Oh, Brunig. Who made the interception? Everson Walls. Well, we had the strip sack fumble, and I went, I could see Randy White hammers him. Brunig pushes away some offensive tackle trying to fall on it, and Walls scoops it up and takes off for a touchdown. So I'm telling the tale that Randy caused it. Brunig kept guys away from it while Walls scooped it up and took off. Right.
Here's another add-on. Now that I was thinking the Leon Lett butt fumble from the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day back in the 1990s, I think it was. I was thinking, like, how can I bring, especially for football more than any other sport?
Yeah.
You could roll a 2d6.
Yeah.
And if it comes up, and you can kind of stride it how you want. But say you come up with one end or the other. If it comes up with a 2 or a 12,
right, then
you've got adverse weather. You've got a snowstorm. You've got Kansas City monsoons.
Yes.
And what you would do for that then is, whenever you had a score, you'd have to roll a yes or no decider die to determine whether or not that happened, because your scores are going to be affected. On the low side.
Yes.
So that's a way you could almost bring in weather onto that.
Oh,
and
easily.
You could do it
easily. Yeah.
If you're bringing it closer to the bell. If you've got a 3 to 11,
right.
Well, instead of having a 50-50 yes no, you could have a 4-sided, 2-sided yes no.
Right.
To have a third of the time have it not happen, as opposed to.
This is the danger. This is the danger for us designers, dude. We could brainstorm and come up with. I could literally, like, I finished, like, this morning. I said to myself, I've got to finish my racing game, but the whole time I'm finishing up my racing game, I'm coming up with more stuff I could put in it or add to it. I'm thinking, stop it, Jason. Put out the game. Be done with it.
I noticed how you suddenly took my advice, and I'll take 100% full credit of this, and weaseled your boxing game into the mobster.
Oh, yes, you did. You said you have to have something tied to Tony Bodoni. Yeah, and when I got my book in the mail last night, I went over to my wife. I said, I guess so. I said, I told her that John had said I got to get Tony Bodoni somehow tied up with the mob in my mobster game, and I said, but better, I'm gonna make it his granddad, right?
Yeah.
Right? Vinny Bodoni, right? Yeah, right. So it's so fun. It's so fun. Yeah, I love this stuff. Yeah, so can we safely say, for all the listeners out there, that baseball is what's the percentage chance that there will be a baseball? Not when, but that there will be.
Vegas odds probably have it at a plus 150. No, I would love to make one. If and when it comes out, it's gonna be a while.
Oh,
I
sure.
want.
Yeah.
I've got 3 other games that I've got to fill in
Yeah.
seasons for.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in different leagues. Actually, I'm thinking I've had, and this is something that's intrigued to me. Somebody wanted a PWHL, Professional Women's Hockey League,
Right.
cards
Sure.
that make.
Yeah.
Now they've got. I went on their website. They have the individual stats, but they do not have a table of team stats like the reference site has.
So you would have to compile their stats first.
Well, here's the thing. I could take all the individual stuff and total them into a team,
Yep.
but I don't know if that's everybody.
Oh no,
That's
probably
on
not.
it.
It's probably
Right?
the only
So
people listed on the roster, right?
I'm considering actually writing to the powers that be at the PWHL to see if they have any other,
Resource.
let them know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So let them know. Since I'm promoting your league here. You need to,
Yeah.
sweeten the pot a little
Wow.
bit.
Well, that's like the European Football League, the new European Football League, Professional Football League. So there's no statistical data on the web, but when you go to their website, you can purchase their stat books for the last so many years. And I thought, holy cow, you could buy it. They'll mail you a book of all the stats and all the players' stats on them. So people who would want to make an accurate version of the Professional European Football League could get the data, but it's not on the internet. It's not published. It's like, oh my
No.
God, you'd have to
Well,
buy the book.
Well, yeah, that he pushed got a fat finger in all the data.
Yeah. Right. Right. That's right.
Well, thank you.
That's right. It's absolutely right. Holy cow. Holy cow. Well, it's funny. I keep a little notepad, right? So I'm one of those guys that uses Windows Notepad. I'm one of the only people left on the planet that uses the text-based Windows Notepad for my notes. And so I'm keeping a little seasons notepad file of what I'm going to eventually order from you. I've got the 98-99 hockey league that I want to get. That's the Dallas Stars Sabres in that great game, but they had to beat Patrick Waugh and the Avs to get there. So Dallas Stars had that run and then had to face Havlicek, and so what a great series there, right? So I'm thinking, okay, and I'm writing down I'm putting in the basketball games, like which basketball leagues do I want? So I'm keeping this little file of leagues that I want to order. Of course, those I'm going to want printed and cut. So
Yeah.
so I've got those. But I couldn't wait on the 2 football seasons. I was like, I'm gonna have to get these 2 football seasons going, man. So because I've been absolutely hooked on drive time football of late, and football is just it's like an illness, I've gotta, it's like a cokehead. Every once in a while, you got to go into the bathroom and snort a little coke right off the back of your hand.
I'm finding myself wanting to play a little bit more. At least start, now that training camps are going to be starting here in a couple months, and football's almost into a year-round thing now.
It's nuts, dude. I always get to the end of by the end of the year, by the Super Bowl, I'm almost sick of football. It's like, I don't even care about the Super Bowl. Of course I do, but and then I need this break. And about the time I think, okay, I got time to play basketball and hockey, I've got football out of my, then poof, something gets my football juices going again, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's ironic. And basketball, I've been dying to get back to basketball, but then I got Red Ice hockey going and couldn't get away from Red Ice. Then I said, well, I'm going to go play my 82 a little bit and play a little football. And now basketball, literally basketball fell through the gaps. It's fallen through the gaps again. My basketball game is in the Swiss cheese problem, right? It's fallen through all the holes.
Yeah, it's. You're not the only one that has that problem, because there's a lot of people on the the gaming boards on Facebook. It's like there are so many games out there these days. It's like, how do you decide which one to play when? Yeah.
Well, and for me, I'm a mood guy, right? What movie am I in the mood for? My wife and I, what are we in the mood to watch? What am I in the mood to eat? I'm a mood-based guy. I'm a kind of a mood-based gamer, but I'm really weird. Like I can love something, but if I find something that is not only I love, but is practical, and I find myself wanting to play it when I'm tired, or wanting to play it whether I'm in the mood, or that's how I know something is long-term keeper, right? And all 3 of your games hit that. They just hit that sweet spot for me, right? And I can't say enough how that's about really outside of my own games. That's about all I want to play. But I have the tickle, like the other day, play action football. It's like, I really want to play a down by down, snap by snap football game. I want to see the backs carry the ball. So I still have those times where I need that. I need that minutia. But at 55, it is so rare now. My imagination is broader than that now, and I want that done in a quick amount of time. I mean, I've already knocked out in my 82 set. I've already knocked out 15 games. I'm just, and that's only playing like 1 or 2 games a day, maybe. So it is like I could sit down and wrap up my entire 1982 schedule in one afternoon if I really wanted to bang them out. But I kind of like my coffee in the morning. I want to cherish it. So it's like coffee and my game of hockey, coffee, my game of football. It's there's something about pacing myself with a fast play game that's even sweeter because I'm never going to burn out. And I learned this lesson with Grid Zone because I really played Grid Zone until I almost can't stomach it again. I burned out on it so bad, right?
Actually, one of the guys who was in my boards is or was in our Patriot Football League.
Yeah.
Scott Long.
Oh yeah, Scott. Yeah, sure. And Scott was running his own league. I won a championship in his league. Yeah, because Scott knows Gary very well, and he play tested Legends of Boxing with Gary, so Scott knows Gary Brown very well too. So Scott's a great guy. Yeah. There's probably a few people out there that were in our league. I just they don't necessarily raise their hand and say, "Yeah, I was in Jason's league" or whatever. But we had a few guys come and go, right?
Oh, it's your league is more legendary than anything that Shador F. Sanders ever did.
I do wish. No,
but I'd like to think that my games are. It's a gateway drug to the bigger games.
Yeah, it can be.
It's a pull into the full games because there are teams that will want to play one team. They want to play this long form of their favorite team through the schedule.
Yep.
And the rest of the schedule, they can use mind and the quick play.
Absolutely. And it's accurate. That's why it can be used that way, because it's accurate. You know that you're going to get the record. The records are going to come out right. So if you get your team back to the playoffs, you're probably going to see some semblance of the right opponent in the playoffs if you're doing a replay, if you're doing a season replay, right? What I love about it, again, and this is just personal, like anything, like what do you like on your pizza? For me, it's as I've aged, I've come to this realization that it's there's a certain level of quality that I want, but I also want it quickly. And so it ain't enough just to be fast. There's got to be this gravitas and quality to it. And Drive Time Football was kind of the beginning of, hey, look at this. But then basketball came along and said, hey, look, I've added point finders. And then hockey comes along and says, dude, I've added goal scoring, timing, and assists. And you're like, okay, we've got a fast play game, and this data just fills this. So it feels like, I'll be honest, I don't play a lot of hockey games anymore. Yours is the only one I play, and I'd already gotten rid of all my big boys, because they took too long and it was just too much work. And it's like, I don't love hockey enough to go through all these machinations for an hour and a half. But there is no doubt the hockey game for me is a full-blown simulation. It's just a full-blown simulation for me. But there are a lot of diehard hockey players that say, nah, man, there ain't enough changes of the... And I've said this before, it's like basketball. How many possessions, right, are just possessions? It's a turnover, it's a missed shot. You're like, I don't want to do all the minutiae of every shot on, I don't. In hockey, I kind of want to see the highlights. They get the puck away and they set it up and they get a shot on goal and I want to see the save. Yeah. I don't want to see that every 10 seconds the puck is out of stick, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine that's happening,
right.
Like Keith Avallone's hockey game with the lulls. Right, you're playing a full-blown hockey game, but then there's just lulls in the action. It's like, well, that's the problem. They're called lulls. Why? Because nothing really is happening. But I still gotta simulate the lulls, and let's just skip the lulls. Let's just get the lulls out of the game. Let's just abstract lulls out. Your game, in a way, said we're taking lulls out. Right? We don't have to go through the lulls.
Yeah.
Right? And in a way, same as baseball. Right? What's hurting baseball? Baseball had a timing problem. It was taking 4 hours to get a game of baseball done on TV. They had to find a way to speed up baseball because the average fans, they can't spend 4 hours watching a baseball game on television. So, can you get the lulls?
Don't get me started on it.
No, but see, if your baseball game can remove the lulls, but give us the data, Dude, you've nailed it. You've absolutely
Well,
nailed it.
I'll say this: my goal, without the finders, is
Yeah.
you can roll for a final score in 2 to 3 minutes.
Holy cow. So
It'll
then,
take longer.
you're going to spend time extrapolating your data afterwards. Is that it?
Well, you can do it afterwards. You can do it during.
Oh yeah, because I would want to do it during, because that's when the narrative's rich in my blood, right? Yeah. Because I want to know. Oh, after the fourth inning, it's a 2-1 game, and what's his name's throwing a no hitter, or excuse me, a 2-0 game, and somebody's throwing a no hitter, and somebody else has had 3 hits, and so I want to see that narrative as I'm playing it. But that's outstanding. Right. Wow, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
you've got baseball fans right now curious. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm telling you, brother, red ice hockey, basketball, they're amazing. And red ice to me is probably one of my top 3 favorite games, period. I play Drive Time because I'm a football nut. But red ice is I'm getting ready. This morning I almost started because I'm in my championship for 42-43. Detroit won and Toronto won in that amazing game. Toronto, so I've got Detroit and Toronto in the Stanley Cup, and I just haven't started it. It's like there's a side of me that's going, if I start it, it's like I kind of want to let it build to a fervor, so I'm dying to play it. And this morning I almost started it, but I was like, well, I should go ahead and play a little bit boxing. I just got my book in the mail, but. I can't wait to see Detroit. And now I will say this: hopefully, you'll get a couple of 60 seasons in that NHL set.
Well, okay. Let me go back to that. So, I've got, like I said, I want my catalog's got to get filled in before I start baseball. But there's got to be a certain logical progression of how I do it.
Yeah.
Now, basketball, I've already stated online that go up to my basketball seasons here.
Because you're also doing college. Oh, man, I can't imagine that.
Well,
not basketball, but did you do I think you did a football set that's 112 teams?
Let's see.
It's 36 pages, right? Times 4? Isn't that 130 teams?
I've got, let's see, 2024. I've got all FBS teams. I made a set with all FBS teams.
Dude.
And it's 36 times 4, 144 teams.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I said, my God, dude, he's never, ever going to get a break.
But for the NBA, like, for example, I'm doing 60s. I'll do a 60s season, and I'll do a 70s season. I'll do a 60s and a 70s, and maybe a couple 80s.
Yeah.
But I got to have a progression to fill the hockey stuff in. Like right now for hockey, there's a void in this. There's a big void in the 60s.
Yeah. Now, can I ask why? Again, I'm not a hockey aficionado. I'm not a hockey historian. Is there a reason? Is the 60s not a great era for hockey?
No, it's not that. When I made it, I wanted 8 or 10 seasons made before I released it.
Right. Makes sense.
So I think I put a poll up and asked people who were, know more about hockey, his history than I do.
Yeah.
What are the seasons you want to see upon release?
Yeah.
And the 60s didn't really fall in it. Now, the only reason I made the 42-43 season is because Hockey Reference stats, there's missing stats once you get, older than a certain year.
Right.
And then I wanted that as a template to make my, generic formulas for stuff like the empty net and so on. So that's why I made that one. But yeah, the 60s needs to be filled in. The the aughts need to be filled in.
Yeah.
For 2000.
Right.
So, and that'll
are there actually fans of the aughts? I don't believe it.
There's
the Toronto aughts. Is that what you're talking about?
the Argonauts.
Yeah.
It'll actually be easier to fill in because, like some of the original 6 seasons, I mean that's only 6 teams. It doesn't take long to create one for that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting
know,
for you to finish the '60s, and I'm just going to get the whole decade. I'll just buy the whole decade from you.
oh, so I'm going by what what the community wants for both,
Oh,
and
sure.
then
Yeah, you want to go with what people
yeah,
want because you want your time to be valuable, and the best way to be valuable is valuable to the people who want the stuff, right?
yeah. And
I
then
mean,
when I feel I've got enough seasons in each of the three sports, then I'll start, you know,
okay.
working on the baseball game
Yeah.
in earnest. So,
Yeah.
but I've actually started compiling uh, statistics for baseball already.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a bit nuts, man. I'm playing DTF yesterday morning, and I'm thinking, I wonder how could he make a boxing game using this engine?
oh,
It's just the engine is so, and I love the cards. I just love everything's contained. It's over quickly, yet there's plenty of details for me. And I'm thinking, man, you
before
could
we
do boxing with this. You could do all kinds of stuff.
before we go,
Hmm.
uh, if you've got an angle, because I know you record your stuff from a kind of a side angle.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on a tripod and it sets over
Yeah,
my
yeah.
shoulder. Yeah.
So if you've got a stand that goes at about a 45 degree, there's an app called Score Counter, okay, and it's an Android app, but they have it for iOS too.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So you have okay, and you can just hit the plus minus, and it'll keep
Oh,
this.
there you go. Because
And every time
Brian's using that on his channel. Brian Hafferkamp, when he's playing his
yeah, yeah,
games to
yeah,
show those, he uses that. Yeah.
yeah. So if I got the hockey one from Al Wilson for the hockey,
Yeah.
and I got a guy who's doing Vincent. He'll have to forgive me for not remembering his last name, but he lives like 3 miles away from me.
Oh wow.
Uh, he does 3D printed stuff too, and he's making me a
Wow.
football one. But I'll be using it.
Oh.
If I do to stream some, yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I would like to. Eventually, I want to order Al Wilson's hockey one, and I would love a football one because I'm going to be playing. Listen, dude, you know how many hockey? I mean, I have every season you've put out. I've printed out probably 10 of them. So it's like I just have this thing that I'm going to end up playing like football every day of no matter what's happening in my life, right? Yeah. So it's
Yeah, but
crazy.
this if I do any basketball streaming, I'm gonna because mine's more of an overhead, and
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
using that for at least for now. For
Yeah.
it's easier
Because
instead of having to.
I use a high def Sony cam, so it has to sit on a tripod. My tripod won't point directly down, unfortunately.
I've got
I may be able to get a tripod that would let me point it directly down, but
okay.
it's got a traditional tripod thing on it here. Oh yeah, you've got one too.
Now I
Yeah.
haven't. Well, see, here's the thing. I haven't used this in years,
Uh huh.
and I'm assuming this is something that I could probably jerry rig to
Yep. Yeah.
stream with.
It says I just use this. I just use this $200 handy cam, and then I plug it into my computer. So this is giving away all of my trade secrets for all of my super high quality, high production value. I
I'm
set
gonna.
it up. I set it up on a $19 tripod that I got at Walmart. And I shoot it over my shoulder, and I plug it into my computer, upload the video, and then immediately upload it to YouTube and just give it a title. I don't even edit. Now, I do have editing software if I want to add music or something or edit it, I could, but
Yeah.
like the other day, I put up the Miami game. I was interrupted. My dog was barking, so I had to cut out. So like that game, you may notice that it's like edited. There's like a piece of it missing because my dog started yapping, and I had to stop the video, come back, and finish the game. So it's like, oh great, oh great. But so I use my editing when there's something really bad like that, like a dog barking or the phone rings in the middle of a video,
Yeah.
and I have to answer it or something. But yeah, and I've been using a camera like this for years on YouTube. I've got 2 or 3 of them sitting around here that are old, that died, or that aren't very good quality or whatever. But yeah, so I need to get a tripod that would be more down on the table so people could see the information better. Would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not going to do what Dave Garner does and put it all on. Because Dave uses the way Dave puts it on the computer screen is beautiful. You can see the results and the score, how he does the scores on. I think he's using
Yeah.
Excel to do scoring, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that makes it a lot
Well,
more
that's
attractive for people watching. Yeah.
right, and that's a product of the software suite that he
Yeah,
purchases.
OBS. He probably uses OBS or something, right?
No, actually, he does Lux. He,
Oh, Okay.
Yeah, I think it used to do StreamYard, but they really upped their prices. But he went to another.
Okay.
No, it's an online third party
Okay. Nice.
thing. Now I'm trying to use. I know how to use. I've used OBS in the past, but I'm trying to use. I use vMix at church,
Yeah.
so I know how to use vMix. But
Yeah.
I'm still trying to. I got issues with sound on that, so
Gotcha.
until I master those, I'm using StreamYard. Of course, the free version only allows me 2 hours a month
Right.
of
Well,
recording. So.
less time recording and more time making seasons and games, John. That's my order. Right. I and hundreds of other fans are saying, no, man, less recording, more work. Would you?
I need time to play, man. I need
I
time to play.
Well, you can anticipate an order for a special set of football. I'll be putting in an actual box order for a football set. So keep your ears open on that. And not yet, but I'll be sending you that order at some point. And with that will probably be a hockey season in there and a basketball season in that order too. So if I'm going to order something hard, I want to go ahead and get a couple things that are cut and printed. And so yeah, you got a fan for life, my friend, and a friend. Of course, we've been friends for years. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Anything you want to add to this? This has been a little less formal than my other two interviews. Because we have a personal relationship, right? We're friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else you want to add to this interview? Anything that I failed to ask so you could express your design acumen or your genius, your design genius that I failed to ask about?
You know, I almost feel like this is something I fell into. No, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, back in October, September, last fall, I'm like, I'm okay. I didn't say to myself, okay, let's make three. Let's make 3 sports games in a 9-month period,
right.
and
and they're all really good. Thanks, John. You make me feel great, man.
And
great. That makes me.
This desk here has nothing. These are also all my supplies.
Yep.
Are in there.
Well, we some of us call that divine intervention, John.
Yeah.
The muse,
True.
brother. The muse working.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say that to a guy who's been making games for years. And some games I've literally spent years making. Don't say that you just said, I think I just make a few games.
To be honest, I'm a meteorologist by trade. Okay.
Wow, I did not know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No.
So
wow.
when I work in more in the back office administrative stuff than I do. Like last night, I was out on the front.
Right.
But if I'm working, I'm constantly thinking about what I'm going to forecast. Okay?
Yes.
It just doesn't. I don't say, okay, I'm going to carve out a 10-minute period where I'm going to look at all the charts and
right.
see. It's and the same thing goes with this. To be honest with you, I think about on and off about creation, and those juices have flowed since I was a teenager.
Yep.
So it's not like, it's not like all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to create games. It just happened to, overflow and data dump.
Exactly. Well, here's what happens. If you have an interest in music, and when the creative urge hits you, then music is where you would end up putting that creative urge. If it happens to be tabletop gaming, you're going to put it into creating tabletops. If it happens to be movies, you're going to end up. So I honestly believe the muse comes to all of us. It depends on what you happen to have an interest in, writing or whatever. It will come, and
right.
You just have to pray. When it does, you have a creative outlet, because I've met people who are frustrated. They don't create, and they're not happy people. And I think it's so important that we create. Every human being's put on this planet to be creative. We have this imagination. We have this desire to express ourselves, and I think creation is the way to do that. And so I'm happy to hear that, because that means you found your medium for your creation. Because as a meteorologist, dude, you're not creating it. You're trying to figure out what the heck the weather is going to do, right? I mean, you don't get to create the weather. You're almost a victim of it.
I'm in sales, not production.
Oh. sales.
That's
I
why.
love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's
that's
awesome.
my excuse when things don't go right. But no, sometimes the muse hits you at 2 o'clock in the morning. You
Oh,
wake up
brother,
and I says,
dude, yeah.
"Oh, I need to incorporate this in my game," and
Hmm.
and pray that you remember it. But when
That's
you
it.
wake up in the morning again,
Yeah, that's and I won't fight it. So that this racing game that I finished 2 weeks ago, 1:30 in the morning, boom, I wake up with this idea for this racing game. And I come in here and I scribble it down. You can, if you can see my notebooks, where I'm literally feverishly scribbling down these thoughts that came to me in the middle of the night. And then it's like, okay, can I make it or tell? I go get some coffee, and then I was like, okay, oh yeah, I see what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, yeah. Then you start to tighten it up and work it out, and then it's like, okay, I'll get this done I'll play test it a little bit, and then I'll put out some play test docs, and then all it was a matter of doing was finishing it, refining it, finishing it, and it is what it is. Take it or leave it, but it's you. I won't even wait until the morning. Right? It's like I'll just get up and go to work on it. Right? I won't do it. I just can't, because if I'll never go back to sleep. If I try to go back to sleep, saying, okay, I got to remember in the morning to write that down, I'll never go back to sleep.
yeah.
And I keep thinking I'm done. I mean, I finished all those games at the end of 2024 and published some of my books, and I was like, I'm done. I don't imagine I have anything else that I need to do. And outside of my role-playing game projects that I'm doing with Dell, our space age, we're doing our sci-fi game now. That's different. Role-playing games are a different animal for me. But when I design my games, my sports games, they come at me like a bolt of lightning. And I really thought after 24, like, there's nothing left. I've done everything I'm going to do. So I'm just going to enjoy playing John's games for the next 10 years. And then this racing game hits me, and
Yeah. Since I can't play as much as I like to, I can usually live vicariously through what other people play,
there you go.
which is satisfying. It really is.
Yeah. Well, and some of the stuff people post, like the Discord channel I'm on, those guys are posting their box scores and what's happening there. It's fantastic. Which has been happening on the forums for 20 years, right? 30 years.
Yeah.
The forums guys have been posting their replays and so it's just that inspires me too. It's like, oh yeah, I got to get that game out again. I got to play a little more baseball. You'll see somebody post something like Phil's been posting ultra quick college football, and it's like, oh, I got to remember those ultra quick games are great fun, and he's inspired me to want to. Well, technically, he's inspired me to play more football, so I'm playing more drive time football. So
No, but seriously, I people ask, why don't I charge for these? And I will for obviously for the printed stuff,
Sure.
but it's my way of giving back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
I've had a few touching testimonies that
Yeah.
people have sent to me, a couple which I've shared with you,
Yeah.
and I had a guy recently just bought all 3 games that he's going to play during his cancer treatments.
Oh, wow.
As a diversion.
Yeah.
So you know what? If I created it solely for that person
That's
to
it.
have, and that's all. That's all.
That's it. It's the
mic
truth.
drop.
I said it a long time ago. I designed for me. I make for me. I make also to kill the muse, because the muse won't leave me alone until it's done. So I've got to squash the muse to some degree. But and I've always said, if there's one human being out there that this gives them a smile or gives them any joy for any period of time, then I'll take it. I'll take it. And on the role playing side of things, because I've been a big role player since I was an 10-year-old kid, and I love role playing, and it's social, very social. You play with a lot of other people generally, even online. We play with other people, and it's different. I don't know if role play game designers get that kind of testimonial back, right? I don't know if those guys, because it's a different kind of thing where you find that nobody's going to write you and say, hey, your role-playing game gives me this private kind of satisfaction, because it's a public thing. It's something you do with other people. So that's something to be said for solo games. They allow people to enjoy this thing when they're in these vulnerable positions, or when they're alone, or when they're up at 4 a.m. when nobody else on the planet's awake like me. I had a boss years ago that I worked for briefly, and he said, dude, 4 a.m, that's my peanut butter and jelly time, right? That's exactly, I get up at 4 because it's mine. I can do whatever the hell I
Yeah.
want. I have no responsibilities to the dogs or my wife or the whatever, it's my time, baby. And it's going to be coffee and a game,
And I don't know if this is the same for you, but creating this stuff is actually cathartic.
Oh, yes.
It gets you in the zone,
Hmm.
and it lowers your blood pressure, believe it or
Yeah.
not. And it's just something that if you didn't enjoy doing it, then
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not.
I love the creation. But there's a point with creation where it becomes I want to get it done, and I want to because I want to share it with the rest of the world. But it's not the same for me. As much as I love creation, because I do feel closest to the maker when I create. I really do. But nothing brings me joy like playing. I mean, and nothing. I mean, nothing gave me the kind of joy that Grid Zone or Drive Time Football, that game the other day, 5 interceptions. I just, nothing gives me the joy. But again, I believe we were meant to play. Human beings are meant to play, and we tend to surround ourselves with nothing but stress all the time. And I feel bad for people who don't take time to just be a kid, just play, just joy, just have it. And so I wish creation gave me that. Creation for me is different. It's not quite joy. It's like this, I've got to do it, and I've got to do it and it feels good to be creating, but not
It's an
not
outlet.
like dropping dice,
Yeah.
and having that big touchdown or having that comeback victory, or I can't explain it. Nothing like dropping dice, especially
You
solo.
know what's on the other side after it's done.
Yeah,
Is the
right. That's true. That is true. Right. But yeah, you're right. I don't know if I would have. I mean, even when I first created Flash Football, I did it out of necessity because I was desperate to play something and I didn't have anything to do, so I had to create it. It wasn't because there was no altruistic attitude about it. There was no, I'm going to share this with the world. It was like, I've got to have something to do or I'm going to go crazy. I got to play. So I got to invent something I can do by myself quickly. And it's got to be good enough because I'm a diehard football fan. And if it's crap, it'll make me mad, So, and then, 4 years later, I'm sharing it with the world, so, but, and that process was amazing, but it was more the challenge of getting it done. So I think creation for me is about the challenge, right? It's like, okay, I got this idea for a boxing game. I got this flash of how it can work, but can I make it work? And then can I write a rule book so people understand how it works? And can they play it and get it? Well, they go, oh, I get what Jason's doing here with Big Country Boxing. It's not about the punch by punch. It's about the narrative that comes out of this crazy fictional thing that we create, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's the challenge of creation because nothing. I was a kid in school. You may have been this way. I was bored to death in school. I was one of those kids that was nothing was the right challenge for me. And I didn't go to college till I was an adult, and that was kind of like I got to do this because I want my education. But the only thing
I
that
used to
challenges me is solving the riddle of game design.
yeah.
Yeah,
I used to take a piece of paper and just start writing 1, 2, 3, 4, and see how high I can get before the teacher took it away.
exactly. And so I think
Yeah.
so for me, creation is almost like how do I keep? It's almost like staving off the insanity of boredom for me, right? Because it isn't so much out of joy. The playing, that when I play your game, or I play Brian's game, or I play Matt's MMA game, or I role play with my friends, there's just a level of joy there that I don't get I just don't get any other way, right? When Dallas scooped up that fumble, and it's 10-3, and I'm like, I can't believe this. And Cleveland, for the life of them, can't get one more score. Yet Danny White is handing him the ball on every other possession. It's like, what the hell's going on? It's just, I love it. I love it. And just talking about it, I'm full of joy. And then there's guys out there going, 500, Danny White never threw 500. It's like, you grouchy. Come on, man, get off my lawn, right? You've gotta let go of that hostility that things aren't perfect, right? But and I wonder, I almost looked it up. Did Danny White ever throw 5 interceptions in a game? I don't want to because he did in my game, and that's all that matters.
Oh, don't make me look it up because I will. uh,
Oh my God! All right,
Dave
brother.
was playing. Yeah, go ahead.
I suppose I should let you go, man. I've had you for an hour and 40 minutes, man.
It's like it's more like a minute and 40 seconds.
People are like, I thought he was going to interview a designer. No, we just ended up talking. Right? Where was the interview in that? Yeah, that's what happens, right? You sit down with friends. That's funny. Oh my god!
All these softball questions.
Softball questions. So
no, I'm not going to make a softball simulation.
So my brother used to work a camera. He was a part-time cameraman at what's called the Creative Leadership Conference, which is a corporate. People send all of their executives from all over the world for a 2-week crash course in PR and media, how to deal with the media and PR. And at the end, they'll have an interview. They'll do fake press conferences or fake interviews. And one of the first questions, they'll get you talking in questions, and then they'll ask you, so when did you stop beating your wife? How are you going to answer that? How do you answer that question, right? So they would always hit them with when did you stop beating your wife? To men, they would ask men that question, and women, I don't know what they would ask the women. And he said it was always funny to see their response because it came out of nowhere. And you've got to be fast enough on your toes to answer that appropriately, right?
Well, it's funny because they kind of use that similar tactic in interrogation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same concepts. You get people off guard, right? Yeah. It's so you can imagine, but and they knew at the end of so they would record their first interviews without any training, and then after the 2-week course, they would do interviews, and they would have both recordings, and they would know after 2 weeks they knew exactly how to handle these media situations, these PR fiascos. And you're like, okay, so how do all these executives? Well, they send them to these places to learn how to handle the media, right? And so it's funny, but yeah, he had to work the camera for those faux TV shows, those faux. And they would shoot them, and at the end they would take home their interviews on recording. Yeah, so pretty fascinating, especially if you're in the PR department at these big corporations. You better know how to handle catastrophe, right? How do you answer these tough questions? It's nuts. Fortunately, you're not going to get those from me. Yeah. What's the old saying? I'm not going to ask the tough questions that I can't answer, right? If I can't answer it, I'm going to ask it. So it's the old law question. Never ask a witness a question you don't already know the answer to, right? I don't ask a designer a question I don't already know the answer to. Right? Or at least I got a pretty good idea of where he's going with the answer. Right? Yeah. When the first guy that looks at me and says, "Oh, I've got some friend down the street that gives me all of my formulas and everything, and I just put them on here." Then I'll be surprised. What? Somebody else did your formulas for you?
Here's another thing. I mean, board games have been around for decades.
Yeah.
Maybe even centuries.
Oh yeah.
Backgammon
and chess and yes.
And I'm like, when I went back, when I mentioned earlier, at least how I interpret the simplicity of the games I made, it's like, how come nobody else made this before me?
Right.
That part boggles my mind too.
Well, and that's the other thing, because I'm a firm believer everything's derivative. We have been around long enough that no matter what, somebody's thought of it or done something like we're doing. So every time I pick up a D6 and I go, if I use a D6 in my game, it's derivative because somebody's already out there's already used a D6 in their game. So even if we come up with something different and unique, it's always going to remind people of something like it, right?
Right.
But I would say Drive Time Football, Red Ice Hockey, they don't remind me of any other tabletop basketball game, hockey game I've played. And Drive Time Football, the only thing that fits the genre is, well, it's football, and it is a possession-by-possession game, but it doesn't remind me of game-winning drive football. It doesn't remind me of fast drive football. It doesn't remind me of family football. I mean, when you said, hey, guys, family football, you can get the finders for these same seasons for family football, it never crossed my mind because your game didn't remind me of family football at all, right? Which is fascinating. So it's like, okay, but my games are all possession-based football games. But that's just how we do the clock. That has nothing to do with how the game works or produces results. Right. So, and I think that's part of the reason I like your game so well. It's like I've not played games like them, and then you stick with the same structure. I mean, I can now say, oh yeah, Red Ice Hockey reminds me of basketball. Oh, it reminds me of DTF because you made them and they're your system, But prior to that, I hadn't played anything like Drive Time Football. I mean, when I saw it, and you had offense, defense, and red zone, and you sent me the PDFs when you first showed it. I think you just showed me 2 teams, and I immediately saw it, and I went, "Oh my God, this is genius! It's genius," you know. And then I couldn't wait to play it, and then playing it, I went, "Oh yeah, it works like it looks." I saw it, and I went, "Oh yeah, I see what he's doing." And then I played it, and went, "Oh yeah, it works." It's and then I think you had to add stuff like kick returns and punt all this stuff that you had to kind of add. It's like, I don't even need that, you know. So. And I think the first cards you showed me in PDF didn't even have the end of game into half variables yet. I don't know if they had a field goal, or I don't think they had the PATs on them yet.
I'd have to look at those.
Yeah, and sure. Which is fine. I'm happy they do, because again, those details make the Broncos. Like the other day, I'm playing the Redskins the other day in that game, and I look and I went, Mosley was 2-9. I couldn't believe it. It's like Mark Mosley, one of my heroes. And I went, dude, he stunk that year, and I rolled this PAT. I was like, how did Mark Mosley get a 2-9 PAT? So it's so good that it's there, because, again, you're reminded, oh, yeah, Mosley, this was an era where they didn't make every kick, and this was an era where Mosley might have had a bad year and didn't get fired for it. You know? If you see Von Schaumann's field goal percentage for the 1982 Miami Dolphins, it's like, how did this guy not lose his job? How was he not fired, like, immediately? You know? It's like, what? Don Shula, he must have had some dirt on Don Shula. Right.
I gotta see if I've got a season with Donald Igwe.
Yeah, don't do it. No. I'm purposely never going to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ever again, because I can't get the name right? Yeah, I'm going to start doing this when I'm in hockey. Oh, it's a goal by...
Hey, you're not the only one who can't pronounce those Russian and foreign French and yeah, it's
yeah. I mean, there's a reason Americans bastardize everything to Smith, Jones, Williams. I mean, because it's easy.
Yeah, Gustafson, Field, Ton.
Yeah, I can get the Norwegian and Swedish stuff pretty. I mean, those are pretty, Torgelsson and Bjornsson, and those all kind of make sense to me, right? But some of those Hungarian names, they're all consonants, man. There's no vowels in there. Consonants. Yeah. It's like, where's the vowels? How do I pronounce it?
I'd say it's Greek to me, but there's no Greeks who played hockey.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, Uwabikwe. And Uwe, is it Uwe von Schaummann? Uwe von Schaummann, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. But I'm the kind of guy that'll mess up Tom Brady if you give me time. I'll mess that up. I can mess up Tom Brady pretty good, right?
I got a good friend of mine. He, bless his heart, he butchers baseball names. Like my Tierra or whatever I was calling him. Teixeira.
Yeah, thank you for. Yeah, I got an email from John folks.
Teixeira is what you did.
Yeah, Teixeira, that was right. John one morning sent me a very nice email saying, I think that's Teixeira, man.
I had to phonetically spell it out for you.
Yeah, right. I said, what do you mean Teixeira? No, wait, what? Yeah, that's so funny. I had no, and
the only reason I knew that is because of Mark Teixeira from the Yankees.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, that's so funny. Well, and there's a professional fighter, and I should have known it. There's a professional MMA fighter named Teixeira, Mark Teixeira or Mike Teixeira, so I should have known it. And I don't even know where I got the spelling. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna name it T-I-E whatever, and I think, oh yeah, right, I can't even remember what I'm saying. Don't remind me what I used to say, because I'm finally saying Teixeira. Yeah, don't tell me.
I'm gonna get to reprogram back.
You notice that the career? Did you notice the career of that boxer has been kind of in the shelf for a while? You would think a guy like me who cannot get a name right to save his life would name all of his boxers Bill Jones or Mike Smith.
The reason that happens, you just gave him an identity crisis. He went into a deep, dark depression and didn't want to fight anymore.
Every time I get a name wrong, Howard Cosell is rolling over in his grave, right?
Oh.
All of these professional commentary guys are like, "Oh, I can't believe this guy." But I'm not a pro, man. I'm just a guy sitting in his den rolling dice, playing the game. That's funny. Oh my God. And then I'm always amazed. I've got a good friend in role playing, Scott, and Scott, I think he can speak 7 languages. You know, it's like it's amazing to me. I have very little aptitude for language. Even English. I struggle with English. You know? But to meet guys like Scott who can speak 7 languages, it's just amazing to me. It's like, wow. You know? And I'm assuming it's an aptitude like anything else, you know?
That was just a lot of time on Duolingo. my quick story before we go.
Right.
My wife spent over a year and a half learning Swahili.
Okay.
Wow. We went on a safari back the year after COVID, and it got delayed for a year, so I gave her an extra year to I wouldn't say master the language, but to get to know the language.
Yeah.
And so we're out there, and she had, back in 2017, we got in a car accident, and she had a compound fracture.
Ooh.
It got her leg, back together again.
Yeah.
And we're at this one resort. We drove, we got in late, and they're escorting us to our cabin, and it's really rocky and hilly, and she's walking slow, taking her time, because this is the recovery with ankle like that is.
Yeah.
So, but they had to escort us because of the animals. Where you're out in the wild.
Right.
So she's walking along, and one of the guys in the back said, "Pole pole," and when Swahili means slow.
Which she knew.
The guy in Swahili about how slow she was. She stopped dead in her tracks, turned around, and says, "You trying to tell me I'm slow?" And their faces is like, oh. And then she proceeded to chew them out about, this is why I'm walking slow.
Right.
And they said, don't,
they got caught.
Americans don't learn your language, what they do.
That's right. Yeah, they got caught. Well, I bet you that is so rare for Americans. Americans, again, we generally speak on average, 1 language, and we bastardize that to hell, right? So the rest of the world seems to, Europe at least, there's 2 languages. And because English is the language of the world, the business language of the world, so many foreign countries learn English, to work. So, yeah, I'm sure they were shocked that not only did she, Swahili of all things, right? It's just, I'm sure it shocked them. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, my gosh.
Just last night they talked behind somebody's back like that.
Oh, my God. Poly poly. Well, now I've learned a word. Poly poly. Yeah. I'm going to name my next race car driver John Poly. And there'll be people out there who know Swahili go, that means slow. What?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Information for life.
That's it. Yeah. I will never forget Poly Poly now because of this conversation. See, it's emotionally locked in the memory. In the memory bank. So when the Alzheimer's hits me in another 20 years, I'll remember Poly Poly. I won't know who told me and how I know it.
You'll still be rolling dice.
And I'll still be rolling dice. I won't know what they say, but I'll be dropping those dice. Oh my gosh.
Bury me with a D6, right?
That's it. All right, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having this conversation with me. I hope it's informative for viewers. If not, that's okay. We had a great time, man. I always love chatting with you, John. My dog seconds that. Did you hear the dog? The dog's seconding that.
No, actually I did. Oh, okay.
He's ready for his afternoon walk, so he's raising Cain.
Oh, okay. You gotta take care of the pets.
I don't think we missed any deep questions for you. I think we got most of the deep questions done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend, and congratulations. You've had 3 brilliant games in less than a year. You deserve it. Any of the recognition or any of the love you're getting from customers, you deserve it, my friend. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure you've been one of my biggest cheerleaders, so thank you for being the influencer that you are.
Oh, thank you very much. Influencer? Oh, no. Well, at least I can do it without showing my my butt and my breasts.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God! All right, brother. Let me
All
stop
right.
this recording and then we can say our goodbyes off air. How about
All right.
that? Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep.
Have a good one.